Hey everyone, Sirturmund here again. And with tomorrow being the release of OP04, I wanted to do something a little bit different than a regular gameplay video. So today you're gonna get two videos. First, you're gonna get this video right here, which by the title and the thumbnail, you probably already know what it is. We're gonna do a tier list of the One Piece leaders coming into the OP04 meta. And then about 12 hours from now, we'll also do a bots opening video. So I got 3 boxes of OP04 that I want to open with you all so you can see what we get from our pack. So we're going to take a little bit break from the gameplay video. We'll come back with the gameplay videos on Friday. So let's jump ahead right to this tier list, right? So it's the first time I do something like this, like a tier list, but I know someone asked us to do one. So I wanted to give it a shot. And it doesn't hurt to take a little break as well from our regular gameplay videos. So we have 5 lists here: S tier, A, B, C, and then kind of like F, whatever, right? And we have all the leaders here. Now, I'm gonna go through all of them, more or less. Some of them are gonna be a lot easier than others. But of course, we are here because of OP04 that's releasing tomorrow. So I wanna first start with the OP04 leaders. As you have seen over the past 3-4 weeks, we have been showcasing all the OP04 leaders in our channel. So if you're interested in playing any of those, and I recommend the deck list, just go back through our channel and check those out. But let's just jump right ahead. Let me stop wasting time. I tend to ramble a lot, so I'm sorry about that. So again, let's start with the OP04 leaders first, right? So first, let's talk about Doflamingo. I'm gonna just put an F tier. I'm gonna put them on F tier right now, so that I have an easier time to just select them. I don't have to keep scrolling down. We're gonna ignore the starter deck leaders. These don't release in November. So okay, let's talk about just the OP04 leaders here. From what I have played over the past, I want to say 4 weeks or so with these leaders, I will say that the best of all these leaders is definitely gonna be Doflamingo. I think Doflamingo is the most consistent out of the 6. I think Rebecca gets very close to that. I think Doflamingo and Rebecca are probably the ones that are going to be very close to this S tier right here. I will expect Doflamingo to really be the only one out of them to actually be S tier. I think Doflamingo, you're going to see it a lot. The 10 cost Doflamingo, as you've seen in the videos over the past 3 days, is just so clutch and can literally define the meta, because you have to play around this card, you have to play around this leader showing up into your event and just completely ruining your day. So I think out of all the OP04 leaders, I have found Doflamingo to be the best out of them. It is hard. It is a hard deck to play and a hard deck to build. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see a lot of different lists, like top decking tournaments, over the next couple of weeks. So we'll see how it goes. I know there is going to be the first big OP04 tournament is happening this weekend in Florida, right? I think PPG has said that it's going to be legal in OP04. So we should start to get some idea of which decks end up topping. With that said, like I mentioned, I think Rebecca is not that far behind, right? But I'm not comfortable putting Rebecca as an S tier meta defining deck. I think I put Rebecca really at the top end of A tier. I think Rebecca has a really good place. It can do really well against red players. Now, for the purposes of this video, since we haven't heard anything about whether the restrictions on Marco and Radical Beam and Nightcast Whitebeard, we don't know if those are going to be lifted yet. We haven't heard anything. So for the purposes of this video, we're going to say that OP04 still has those cards restricted to just one. If red was even more popular, right? If those cards were not restricted, I think because Rebecca can be such a good counter against red, it can move up a little bit higher to S tier, because you'll be able to counter all those Whitebeards and Zoro players that you might run into. However, because they might not be as strong as they were in the past, I think she can solidly just go up there to the top of A tier. It's a really solid deck that, if played correctly, can just beat a lot of other decks, and that's why we put them here to the A tier. Out of the other OP04 leaders, I think actually Queen also belongs in A tier. I'm very high on Queen. I think this style of control deck, it can be really powerful. And similar to how we have Rebecca on A tier, instead of S tier because red is a little bit weaker. Same way, I think Queen can be an A tier instead of B tier because red is a little bit weaker, right? Queen's really the biggest struggle that Queen has is when you're going against Law, especially, right? Just the aggression that Law can put in. Law is still going to be very strong and still probably be meta defining, but the fact that you won't have to deal with as many Soros as before, or as many white bears, might make Queen a little bit more playable. So I think I like Queen in the A tier. Unfortunately, after these 3 leaders, I'm not very sold on the rest of the OP04 leaders from the testing that I've done and all the videos that we have played, that we have showcased. I dare to say that I will not put any of these leaders on competitor tier. I don't think any of these leaders are good enough to even be B tier. I think I like BB at C, and I also like Crocodile at C. I think both of these are are decent for locals. You can have some fun with them, get some fun combos off, but I don't think they're consistent enough to really get to that meta game that we expect them to be at, right? And I'm gonna put Fujitora last because I don't think this leader, I guess Isho, if you guys don't know Fujitora, Isho/Fujitora, I'm gonna leave Isho last because unfortunately I don't think this leader is that good. I mean, the effect is cool, but it just doesn't provide enough value to really come out ahead against a lot of the other leaders that you're gonna come across. So it might be a little bit harsh against Isho to put him this low, but I definitely prefer any of these other leaders over there. So like that covers our OP04 leaders, and you know, this might be a little bit controversial. Whatever I put on the rest of the tiers is not gonna be in order. I don't think I'm gonna spend that much time like, oh, you know, this one is better than the other one. So, you know, BB and Crocodile are probably interchangeable. I do think Rebecca is a little bit higher than Queen, but these two can easily go, you know, one way or the other, right? Like it doesn't really matter to me which way you put them, in my opinion. So again, that takes care of the OP04 leaders, and I went through that a lot quicker than I expected, but we still have all these other leaders that we have to talk about, right? Which ones do I want to talk about next? I guess let's just talk about the ones that I think you're going to see. I'm just going to kind of go based on how they're selected here, I guess. That might be easier for me. Just go. That way I don't have to keep scrolling down. I think Ace is decent. I think Ace can be a B tier deck. There's some nice tools that Ace can have. It does get... It might... is that true? Do I think... Do I think Ace is B tier or do I think Ace is C tier? No, I think Ace is B tier. I think Red can still be powerful enough with this. I think Ace is like lower of B tier. I think it's powerful enough to kind of be there and have like a lot of value and be able to still punish a lot of players that are not used to playing against Ace. So I think I definitely like him at B tier. I think Arlong, unfortunately, is F tier. I don't think Arlong's ability does much. Don't really see him doing much in the metagame. I think Crocodile definitely goes to competitive. I like a lot of the tools that Blue gets. So these Blue Crocodile decks can be really crazy. I mean, I have been losing to a couple of those. Even in yesterday's video where we went Doflamingo versus Crocodile, you can see the power, especially if you can play some of those like Animal Kingdom cards. It can become very, very powerful at just dealing with some of the meta decks. With that said, while Blue Crocodile is up here and Purple Crocodile is over here, I don't think Blue Purple Crocodile really makes sense. So I think I put him down here. It might be good enough. Actually, it might be good enough to go for C tier because he still gets a lot of the tools from Blue that we're getting in this new expansion, in this new set. So I could see it being playable as a C tier. This Purple Blue Kaido, I don't think it's going to be great. I haven't played or tasted a lot with it, but the couple of times that I have actually gone against this, it has been free. It literally has been free to just play against it. I think Doflamingo is interesting. It could be B tier, but it could also be C tier. I'm leaning more towards C tier. I think Crocodile. I prefer Crocodile over Doflamingo if we're talking blue. The Doflamingo effects can be pretty good. You know what? I think it could be B. I think it's definitely could be B. Similar reason to Crocodile. A lot of these blue events that you get, and a lot of the blue support cards that we get this with this set are very good to potentially make Crocodile a competitive. And we have seen Crocodile win tournaments even in OP03, right? I think a Crocodile player won the Gen Con regional, for example. So I think in the hands of some good players, your Doflamingo can actually be very good. Garb, F tier. I'm sorry, old man. I don't think Garb does enough to justify it. The next one we can readily put in at F tier as well. Iceberg is another one of those leaders that cannot attack, but unfortunately he just doesn't provide enough value. Ivankov, man, the mighty have fallen, right? Ivankov had a lot of hype in OP02, in OP03 early on, but it kind of got overshadowed, right? So I think Ivankov can just be, he can still be decent, but it's something that you probably just want to leave in your locals, right? It's not good enough to really make it to that competitive tier. Katakuri, I think, goes up to S tier. I think Katakuri, Jello in general, has gotten so many tools, right? So think about it, right? You have the Beige, you have the Sanji blocker, like this is so good. You have the Amanda, like, oh man, like I don't see how Katakuri is not something that when you look at it, you think right away meta defining. Like this card is literally meta defining. Like you have to be prepared to play against Yellow and the triggers, and that's all because of the value and the power that Katakuri has. So definitely what I consider a meta defining card. Kid, I think, could be competitive. There are some decks with Kid that can play a lot of blockers and kind of build this wall. If red is really popular, Kid can have some powerful turns as well, being able to just build this wall of blockers. So I think he can steadily just be here on this B tier. Notice how I keep moving Ace all the way to the right, because I do think I'm still debating on Ace, B or C. I think at C, at the low end of B, I think is fair. Kinemon, unfortunately, man, OP02 no longer is the case. I think Kinemon is still decent, but it's going to be something that goes down to the C, just something that you play for fun and not really to be competitive. Kin goes down to F tier. Unfortunately, I don't see any way that Kin ever becomes playable. Kuro. Okay, so Kuro is an interesting one, right? So Kuro is an interesting one to me. Oh, man. Like, I think Kuro... Ugh. So Kuro has done well in certain tournaments in OP03. Like, I think Will to Win Gaming was playing Kuro to some decent success. I could see Kuro being okay. Is it good enough for me to call it competitive though? Like do I think Kuro is better than BB, for example, or Crocodile? I think that's gonna be like my limit test. Like I think Crocodile and BB are at the cusp of being B tier. Do I think Kuro is better than Crocodile and BB? Then the purple yellow Crocodile, of course. Oh, this is hard to say. I think in the hands of some good pilots, Kuro can do some crazy things. Like I wouldn't be surprised seeing some people actually play it and have some success with it. So I'm gonna leave Kuro at B tier, which is kind of crazy. Then we get to Law, and Law has to be meta defining. Like Law is still doing Law things, right? Law is still doing Law things, and he's able to just have all this crazy value. He's still gonna be as powerful as he has ever been. There's nothing to be said here. It's a really hard deck to pilot, but it's just so good at what he does that he's still gonna be defining, doing a lot for the meta that we might not expect. Then we go for Rob Lucy, and I think Rob Lucy can go to B. I think Rob Lucy can do more than BB and Crocodile, but not good enough to be at the level of like Rebecca. I think if you want to, like, Rebecca becomes the better black deck if you really want to think about it that way. Like if you want to just play black, just play Rebecca. But Rob Lucy is, you know, B tier. You can still be competitive. Magellan is a hard one. Magellan is actually a hard one as well, huh? Oh, I have played some Magellan before, right? Magellan is really good against stuff like Whitebeard, right? Because you can just mess up their dawn turn. But it got a little bit weaker when Whitebeard also when Red got restricted, right? So I don't know that I could say with a straight face that Magellan can be competitive. I think I like Magellan as a C tier. I think I like Magellan as a more for fun deck than full on competitive. This is a hard choice because I do think like this is a hard like these two tiers are very hard to decide, right? I think the first two tiers is very easy to be like, okay, this deck is S tier, this deck is A tier. This one here is a little bit more difficult to really get where which one goes where. But I think Magellan, I don't like it as much as some of the other stuff that we have been putting in B tier. I think Nami could be B tier. I think there's some versions of Nami that are really good and can be competitive, especially if you know how to pilot her pretty well. So as annoying as Nami can be, you have to be careful if you run against a Nami player. Kinemon, unfortunately, F tier. Not Kinemon, sorry. Kazuki and Oden. Yeah, Kinemon's already here. Oden goes to F tier. Not great. Not great. It has never really been competitive. I think Kaido, I will put Kaido as C tier. This Kaido, kind of similar to the purple blue crocodile and similar to Magellan. It's just not the right meta for Kaido to really come in and blow people's boards up, right? So I don't think I like this Kaido where it is right now. I actually think like you might actually have more success. Is that true? Do you have more success with blue purple than purple? Like, do we need to move this to C tier? With the Animal Kingdom cards, I might actually put both Kaidos at C tier. Because the Animal Kingdom cards and the blue events do make this a little bit stronger. So let's move this up a little bit. The red Luffy, I think, can be competitive, kind of similar to Ace. Kind of has the same style as Ace, where red can still like rush people down. There's some very good Luffy players out there that can just kick your butt if you're not careful and don't play around there, right? So that same event where we talked about Doflamingo topping the regional at Gen Con, the person that he beat in the finals was Russell, who was playing this red Luffy, right? And I don't think he came in second, but he was in the final table for that last round. So very dangerous in the hands of the right player. But that's that Luffy. I don't think the red and green Luffy really does much. I think we just bring him down to F tier. Unfortunately, if you want to play red and green, just play Law. Like, there's no reason for you to play this Luffy over playing the Law, right? Sakazuki, I think it's F tier as well. There's a lot more better black leaders, right? The starter deck, Sakazuki doesn't really do much compared to the other leaders that we have seen. Sanji, I think, can go... Wow. I think Sanji can go to C. There's some lists of Sanji that I have seen that could potentially be a little bit copian, that could actually be good. So I kind of like putting Sanji at the C tier, where someone could figure out some list that could potentially have fun and maybe win a couple locals here and there. Unfortunately for Shanks, you go to the Betty button, right? Not really. I don't want to have to scroll down, so what I'm gonna do is that I'm just gonna put whichever the last leader is that I'm talking about. I'm just gonna put it here instead of putting it at the end. But anyways, I think Shanks is unfortunately not good enough to really make it anywhere else but F tier. Smoker, I like Smoker more than Sakazuki. So I think I like Smoker in that C tier, where there is some Smoker versions that could potentially do decent, because Black does have a lot of good cards. It just needs like a good shell to like really make it out there. Uta, compared, just similar to Shanks, who got there F tier. There's nothing about Uta that makes her playable. So unfortunately, it is what it is. Here we have Yellow Black Big Mom. And I think that can go in C tier. I don't think it's good enough to be competitive. So I will leave her at C tier here. You can just play Karakuri or even play Yamato, which we'll talk about later, instead of getting there, right? So I think this Big Mom can go in C tier. White Beer, right? So White Beer has to be A or S. I'm still concerned, like, I'm still concerned about the restriction, right? And the fact that we don't have access to the triple radical beam. I don't know that I'm brave enough to put White Beer on S tier right now. I think I'm down to just leave it. By the way, if you're asking my opinion on the best decks in the format, I think it's gonna be Law and Karakuri. So that's why I'm gonna put them up front. I think I'm gonna put White Beer like in the top of A tier. Kind of like a little bit of the edge of Rebecca. I think it's very close in the cusp of S tier. We have seen White Beer just still doing White Beer things, right? but I think there's a lot more tools in OP04 that can allow you to counter out the white bear and be able to kill them before they can kill you. So I think I like it as an A tier deck. The black, the yellow starter deck Big Mom can also go to C tier, so kind of similar to the black and yellow Big Mom. Yeah, I just don't think there's a lot that you can do with her that you rather just play Karakuri than that. We have C, and C can go to F tier. I don't think, again, similar. I don't know that there's a lot that you can do with C. You probably rather play your Smoker or any other black leader here. Zoro, I'm gonna put it on A tier. So similar to, I think Zoro is slightly weaker than Whitebeard, but it's stronger than all the other B tier leaders. Like, he's definitely stronger than the Luffy and Ace. I think I'd rather have Zoro over Luffy and Ace. So that's why I'm gonna put him here at B tier, at A tier, sorry, instead of B. I think it's a good spot for Zoro here, and kind of gives you an idea of what I'm thinking are the strongest things in this set. We're gonna skip the starter deck 10 leaders, and we're gonna go with starter deck 9 and 8, I guess, right? This Luffy is gonna be F tier. I don't think there's a lot of great use for that Luffy. Don't know that we need to spend a lot of time with this. And Yamato, I'm actually down to put Yamato on B tier. So I think Yamato is kind of like the second best yellow leader. I guess Queen is yellow, so Queen is probably better than Yamato. But I think Yamato is pretty close after Karakuri. You got Karakuri, you got Queen, you got Yamato, and then you go like the big moms after the Yamato. So I kind of like Yamato here on this B tier. I'm not sure I would put her that high, right? I think I would put Crocodile as the top of B tier. Nami probably also a little bit better, right? You know, if we have some time, we'll kind of shift them around and see which ones I think are better. So yeah, I will put Yamato in B tier. And yeah, so then we have the last 3 leaders, and these are technically not being released just yet. Once they get released in OP04, I think the strength of these leaders really gets apparent once you get to OP05. So I don't think it's necessary for us to go over them, but I'll probably put them, once they get released, I will probably put them around that B tier and C tier. I don't think any of them have the tools to be A or S tier just yet until you get the OP05 meta coming in. But it is something you have to watch out for if you wanted to. Again, I will probably put them B tier and C tier. I think Kid is the worst one. I think I like Red Purple Luffy and Red Purple Law over the Kid. So we can kind of do something like that, right? So this is kind of what I think. This is kind of what I think of the OP04 meta. These are what I think are the best 7 decks in the format. Which is kind of crazy because 3 of these leaders were released in this set. But I think that happens, you know, decent amount of times where new leaders kind of take the stage. I might be a little bit high on the Flamingo. I'm not opposed to moving the Flamingo to A tier and just saying Karakuri and Law are the ones that are meta defining. But I think you have to understand enough. You have to expect a lot of the Flamingos that I think you can consider that meta defining. Whitebeard, similarly to the Flamingo, can go between A and S. But I'm gonna just leave him at A right now until I see some really good lists and until we hear more about where the restriction are sticking or more. But for sure, I have no fear of saying that, in my opinion, Law and Karakuri are the 2 best decks in the format. I think Law and Karakuri are the 2 best decks in the format. Law continues to do Law things, and she'll continue to top a lot of decks at a lot of tournaments because of the aggression. I think Karakuri, with the tools that he got, should start winning some tournaments. Like in OP03, Karakuri was in a weird spot where, like, he was played a lot. He had a lot of representations, but he never really won any events. Like, he always came short to those Whitebeards and the Zoro players. I think that's going to change now that we have access to Sanji, we have access to Beige. So those additional tools should help Karakuri out a lot. So I'm really high on Karakuri, and Law, I don't think anybody can argue that Law is S tier. Whitebeard and Doflamingo, again, you can swap them, or you can put both on S tier or both on A tier. They're really in that cusp of that A to S tier. I think Doflamingo, you're gonna see him very, very often. So that's why I kind of see him as a meta-defining leader that you should be expecting. And Whitebeard is going to be a card. It's going to be a deck that you're still going to see very often, right? The 6K leader is still as powerful as it ever was before, but you do have a lot more tools to handle them. And then to finish up my top 7 decks, I'm very high on Queen, and I do like Rebecca as a counter against these red players, right? Because the 7-cost Luffy can be really good, especially at dealing with like the blocker law, since the 7-cost Luffy can attack that blocker law directly. And the Rebecca gets access to Kyrios as well as Leo, which lets you kill the 1-drops that law can have. And the law player doesn't really have a lot of great ways to deal with your Orlumbus either. So you're able to stick that Orlumbus on the field and just be able to slowly kind of grind out the law player and stop them from being able to get their shambles. You also get a ton of blockers, which again, really good against the law players and their aggression. So that's why I think Rebecca has a really good spot at this A tier, just because she can do so well against all of these red leaders that you're still probably going to see very often. And I like Queen, although Queen has the opposite problem of Rebecca. Queen, I think, is really good against a lot of the late game leaders like Karakuri and Doflamingo, but it is going to struggle against these aggressive leaders like Law and Zoro. So Queen is like the other side of the Rebecca talking, in my opinion, where you kind of get to beat a lot of the mid to late game decks, but you might lose to the aggression of the Laws and the Zoros and the Whitebeard. So that's kind of why I like them both in A tier, and Zoro still does Zoro things with just the aggression. So I mean, that's the 7. That's the top 7. I don't know that I need to go a lot more into any of the other tiers. Again, I'm very high on Crocodile. I think Crocodile, Nami, Yamato, maybe Doflamingo to a certain extent, are very good here, right? Like if I kind of had to organize this, I kind of like this top 6 here as the top half of B tier. And then this one's here as the second half of B tier. I think all of this can be really good, and wouldn't be surprised if I see them, doing well in some tournaments, but not good enough to really come like top 8, but maybe good enough to come like top 32 in certain tournaments, right? I think that's why I like them here in this tier specifically. And then everything else is just stuff that you're going to play for fun when you go out there to your locals. But yeah, I mean, I rambled on enough for the past 27 minutes. This is what I think of the OP04 leaders. I grabbed this tier list from Tier Maker. It looks like it was made by Michael Artres. I think it has every leader. There's no leader that jumps at me that is missing here, right? Like if there is a leader that is missing in this list that for some reason Michael didn't have in the tier list, let me know. I probably should have triple verified that before I started this video. But I think we covered every leader that we have in OP04. I'm super excited for this set. It looks very, very fun. I'm gonna be building Doflamingo, Queen for sure. I already have Whitebeard and Law, and Karakuri. Like I'm really looking forward to playing these 3 leaders over here. That's why I bought 3 boxes. So let's see when we do our box openings later tonight in 12 hours if we get enough cards to be able to build all of this. But I already purchased. I actually didn't own a single 8-cost Karakuri, and I placed my order for 4 8-cost Karakuris about 3 weeks ago and got that delivery a couple days ago. So I'm already ready to play the triple or quadruple Karakuris on my yellow list. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm excited to try this out. It should be a really fun set. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this tier list. Again, first time I do this. So if you have any suggestions or any tips or advice, let me know in the comments below. If you like our content, make sure to like the video below and subscribe to us. We post One Piece videos every single day. We're going to get another video today, really 12 hours from now, where we're going to do our first box opening. So please stick around, subscribe to us, stick around and watch those and give us any support that you have. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all again tomorrow, or I guess later today in 12 hours. So enjoy your day.